We're opening.
We have Barbara Cedeno missing, Alex Dorzansky, and Mr. McKinney, Jared. Currently, I suspect we may see all of them. Have no elephants. My expectation tonight is to take several steps forward.
It's a new one.
My name is Kirsten Thompson. I'm great. I have no time constraints. Missing is noted, no elephant. And I'm gonna be unoriginal and then I'll just follow Rob because that sounds really good.
Good afternoon, my name is Amy Desmore. I'm doing fine. No time constraints, no elephants, and yes, my expectations is to take some steps forward.
Hello everyone, my name is Kevin Kelty. I'm doing well. I have no time constraints, missing is noted, no elephants, and I love my make progress.
Hi, I'm Fernando Vasquez. I'm doing well. The no time constraints, the missing are noted, no elephants, and the goal today is to take steps forward.
Hi everyone, I'm Ron Irucci. I'm doing great. I don't have any time constraints this evening. Missing has been noted, no elephants, and expectations will go along with the steps forward as well.
Oh, of course, Macintosh, doing well, I have no time restraints. Missing has been noted, no elephants in the room, expectations is make progress.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Jason Kurtz. I'm doing well. I do have kind of a middle time constraint. I would assume I have to do at 5, so I'll have to step out for a few minutes. Missing has been noted, and I don't have any elephants I'm aware of. My expectation is to make progress.
I am Cheryl Neely. I'm doing well. I have no time constraints. The missing are still missing, and there's no elephants. And I'd like to take several steps forward.
Good evening, I'm Candy Messenger, Director of Food and Nutrition Services. I'm doing well, I have no time constraints. Missing has been noted, I have no elephants, and my expectation is to make progress.
Hi, I'm Teresa Bowen. I'm doing well, kind of. And time constraints, I don't have any. Missing is noted. I do have an elephant maybe here. I have a horrible allergy to scents, and I'm in the way of somebody's scent here as far as so I need to move. Is that seat open? Okay. And I want to make progress.
It's working?
No.
There we go. Name's Jonathan Tuttle, FBA SPALC. I'm fine, time constraints, 6 o'clock. Who's missing? Chris Cox is missing apparently. No elephants, expectations, I expect to settle again.
Good afternoon, my name is Lois DeBay. I am well, no time constraints. Missing's been noted, no elephants. And expectation is to hopefully come up with a settlement. So if I can settle, that's it? Yeah.
Hello, my name is Arlise Williams. I am doing well. No time constraints. The missing has been noted, no elephant. And expectations is to come up with a
Good afternoon, my name is Patrice Coates. I am wonderful, no time constraints tonight, missing has been noted. No elephants, expectations, I'm gonna say something a little different, to have a fair and equitable settlement.
My name is Laura Rosen. I'm doing well, no time constraints. Missing's been noted, no elephants. Expectations I'll go with Patricia.
Hello, my name is Victoria Davis. I'm doing good as I can right now. No time constraints, has been no elephant. Expectation is fair and equity service.
Hello, my name is Deborah Evans. I'm well. No time restraints. No elephant.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
My name is Brett, I'm doing well. We don't have any time constraints, and Donna and I are both here. No elephants, I appreciate you help you meet your expectations.
And good afternoon, I'm Donna Mutzenot, I'm doing well, I have no time constraints. The missing's been noted, no elephants, and my expectation is to, as Amy said, help you get through these expectations. I think everybody would be happy with the settlement expectations. All right, do we have minutes from last time? Okay. Oh, minutes were sent today. Do you want to wait until the next meeting, or did you have time to review them? You had time to review them? Perfect. Anybody have any corrections or deletions to the minutes?
What was the date of the last one?
Laura?
Hi, are you allowed to ask, because you just put little bits in there on story, option 11, about 3 lines down, why no retro? Could you read that? Is it further, or is that just on the road?
What page?
Oh, I'm sorry, page 404.
That's what was in the minutes. That question was asked, I believe, by your team. So that's all that was in the minutes.
Okay, gotcha.
I think at that time that you guys had asked a series of questions about it, so it wasn't like it was a call and response. Yeah.
Okay, anything else? All right, I don't see anybody else's hand, so may we accept the minutes as written, please? May I see thumbs? Thank you very much. All right, we left off our last session talking about several different options. And came to no agreement about those options. Where are we going this evening? Does anybody have any other options? Well, Jonathan has a presentation. Okay, all right with everybody? Sure, all right. No, there's no microphone up. Oh, Kevin's already headed that way. Thank you, Kevin. Here, let me.
I do. Can I drink this water again? All right. Sorry.
Don't mind our chair.
All there is
Okay. Gotcha. Oh, you're right. There it is. Holy heart attack. Do that on purpose? No. All right. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
All right. Another one?
All right. I guess I'm fine. You want to go ahead?
Everybody see it? You need another light on?
Okay.
That's good, Amy, thanks.
All right. Thanks again. All right. Good evening. Thank you, everybody. We ended last meeting with SPALC option 12. That was where we had reduced our original proposal by 0.5% per each grouping of years. In doing that, we reduced the cost of our initial proposal. Again, our president Elise was talking about flexibility, moving from original proposal, so that's exactly what we did. We moved down by $1.2 million from our first proposal. Having done that, we still need $1.7 million to make this happen. The district's proposal is predicated on 5%. They're very, very flexible with that 5%, all kinds of different options with that, but it's still basically a flat 5% across the board. What ours does is it increases to 5.88%. So we're looking for less than a percent increase and less than $2 million. So my purpose here tonight is to sort of show folks that you guys can read all that, right? is that we can definitely afford $2 million in this district. If you were here last year, almost to the day last year, I made a very similar presentation. And it's based on this sheet. And this sheet, if you can kind of make out 3 columns. Here is 1 column here. This is the district summary budget. And so at the beginning of the year, like right now, we're operating under a budget. It's their plan for how much it's going to cost to make it through a school year. How much do we need? Where's our priorities? It's all in here in their budget at the beginning of the year. We don't know how that pans out until the end of the year when we get their annual financial report. These come out by September 11th every year. So the whole school year goes by before we see how we made out between the budget and what was actually spent at the end of the year. This third pink column, that is just very simple math. That just subtracts the budget from the annual financial report and shows you the differences. Now you see these rows are all, whoopsie, are all years. I'm guessing you can see these. So this goes back to 16, 17. We're not gonna go all the way back like that right now. You'll see some colors. I'll bet you can see these in from the back row. At the bottom of these rows, you see a little yellow and a little orange box, and you'll see a green box, sort of at the top. Goes all the way across. We're gonna get to those. I'm gonna blow this up now. If you'll notice, this difference one, this pink one, is over 1 column because this is the year, our current year, 24-25. We have the budget, but obviously we will not have the AFR, annual financial report, until next September 11th. So what this box does is it compares this year's budget with what was actually spent by June 30th of this year, 23-24. So let me just blow this thing up just a little bit so we can make out some numbers. All right, looking at the budget, 24-25, this is our current budget. I'm gonna have to shrink these numbers, I'm sorry. All right. So this year, total appropriations, total amount spent, we plan to spend in the general fund for 24-25 is $1.2 billion. Compare that with their budget last year of 1.17 billion. So it increased by $58 million, or it increased by 5% from this year's budget to last year's budget. This next column with the orange numbers, this is what we're most concerned about. This is why we're here today. This is salary. All these things right here are major functions within the general fund. And within each function are all sort of breaks down how the money is spent within each function. And one of those, of course, would have to be salary. So our SPALC employees are paid, I'm sure, in a number of these different functions here. So we're just doing the total salary, and we see total salary budgeted for 24-25 is $600 million. Compare that with the total budget last year of 546, and we see an increased budget amount of $53 million, or a 10% increase just in salary, and how salary was budgeted last year compared to this year. So that's significant, but what's more telling is when we compare this year's budget with what was actually spent last year. So, instead of, I wish I had a bigger screen. I don't know if you guys can still make this out, probably not, but we'll do it. All right, so instead of just $58 million more than last year's budget, what we have budgeted this year is actually, compared to what was actually spent last year, is an increase of $214 million, or 21%. Again, the increase from this year's budget to what was spent last year. We look at salary, same type of thing happens. We budget 600, but now we compare it to what was actually spent last year at 516, and we see an increase of 16%. So that's how all this works. All this stuff is on the DOE website. It's easy access for anybody. This is what is the basis for the ensuing tabs. So again, first, since we are talking about salaries, let's look at the salaries. This goes back, this again, comes off of that previous sheet we just looked at. Takes salaries back to 2016-17 up through 23-24 where we have complete data. We see that the salary budget, the thing we're looking at right now to get this $1.7 million has been over budgeted significantly every year back to 16-17, and by these percentages. And again, I reiterate, this year's budget is actually about $84 million more than what was spent last year. Is that a lot? How does that compare with the state? Maybe it's normal. Here's how the rest of the state does it. So just as every district submits their summary budgets and their AFRs to the state for posting on the website, the state cumulative budget and AFR on the website as well. Pulling those numbers, we see a significant difference. Where we over budget by 9% on average a year, the state on average is 1% over budget. So there is a bit of a difference here. We've got a lot of flexibility, and no, it's really not normal. Sure, there are some that are worse, but on average, we're over budget a little bit more than others. And year to year, again, we're budgeting $84 million more than we actually spent last year. The actual increases from year to year, and this just compares the total salary spent every year. Compare 17-18 to 16-17, salary increased $17 million. The biggest increase was last year, and last year was a good settlement for everybody. Last year was 8% for talc and 8% for SPALC, and probably 8% for everybody else, but that's why you see that up at $33 million. So that's a big increase. But it pales in comparison to the $84 million that's budgeted above what was spent last year. We look at total expenditures. So salaries falls within this. Total expenditures. Again, over budgeting every year. The closest they ever came was only a $58 million over budget in 17-18. I think that was Irma. And it was pretty low, only 8% over budgeted 2 years ago, and I think that was Ian, obviously, for obvious reasons. But again, this year's budget is $214 million more than what was actually spent. So, yeah, I'm going to get to that in just 1 second. Hold on. How does that compare with the state? Again, as you can imagine, very similar to the salaries. The state, on average, over budgeted by 4%. This district by 11%. Again, this goes back to 16-17. So there will be ample money in total expenditures. If by some reason, I can't imagine what reason it would be, there's not enough money already in the salary account, there is in total expenditures. Excuse me. And how much do total expenditures increase every year? Again, the big year, Ian, of course, devastating, once in a century storm, had to spend tons of money, no doubt about it. $119 million or $120 million was spent last year. And we were still $83 million over budgeted. So by over budgeting by $214 million, I think we can weather any storm, and we can certainly weather a $1.7 million salary increase for SPALC. Materials and supplies, I'm not going to spend too much time on this because this is wrapped up in that total expenditures thing you saw. This, I do have to point something out though. If you notice, if you were here last year, I showed this slide, and it amazed me because what we had last year at this time, this presentation, was the info for 22-23, where 48 million was budgeted and 22.3 was actually spent. We had this number budgeted for 23-24 during last year's presentation. We urged the district to sort of reconsider. So look, you don't need all that money in there. You can move it. There's no way you're going to spend $48 million. Well, this year, we have that information. So while it increased materials and supplies last year to 48, whatever, they actually only spent less than $8 billion. So given that information, one would think this would be a little bit lower this year, but instead, it's up to $67.5 million. Again, if you need $1.7 million and you don't want to mess with anything else, you wouldn't even notice it if you amended your budget and moved it from materials and supplies into the SPALC salary settlement agreement. And again, that's just a little visual for it. And what this comes down to, what happens to all this money, you say? Well, first of all, a budget is a budget. It's not actual dollars, they're predictions. But we do have a thing called a fund balance. Where did it go? Hold on, here we go. A fund balance. You hear a lot of talk about this. These are non-recurring dollars, they're called. Consider them leftover, like at the end of the month, what's the balance in your checking account after you pay all your bills? Well, this is the balance. There are 5 components of this thing. We're concerned with 2. The assigned and unassigned general fund balance. This is in total control of the local school board, which means it would be available if needed for any kind of overage for a settlement. Say $1.7 million over. They can pull out as needed from the fund balance. That's what we maintain. We're not suggesting you completely fund salary out of this, but if needed, it is here. The thing about these fund balances, the assigned and unassigned fund balance, while it's under control of the school board, by law, they have to keep 3% in the bank. You've got to maintain a 3% reserve by state law. Okay, well, only twice since, and I went back to 2010 on this one, only twice since 2010-11 has our fund balance been under budgeted now by less than $50 million. This past year, and lowest total amount we've ever had in this fund balance is $87 million. This year, as of June 30th, we're looking at $151.5 million in the fund balance. So for the past 14 years, we're averaging $112 million, under budgeting by $70 million every year in this fund balance. Again, it's there if you need it. Even during Ian, it grew. Well, I'll show you that on the next one. And how does that compare with the rest of the state? Well, this looks a little bit different, I understand, but a little easier to see. This is just talking about budgeting practices. Everybody under budgets the fund balance, no doubt about it. It's a bit more prevalent, I think, in Lee County. So on this column right here, column H, it's Lee County, percent under budgeted, state percent under budget is right next to it, and you can see it's very common to be under budgeted, but not by 300%. And we talked about the 3% statutory requirement to maintain that 3% in the bank as a fund balance. We have averaged in Lee County 15% in the past 14 years. 5 times as much as we need, 5 times. The state has averaged a little bit less than 4 times as much as they need. And it is steady, it's not dropping. The lowest that it's been in these 14 years is 12%. Highest was way back when, 22%, but lately it's been leveling off pretty healthily. And here it is. You can see the blue, that's what's budgeted for the fund balance. The orange is the actual fund balance we find out at the end of the year. And that little tiny gray bar there is that 3% from the state we were just talking about. So you notice the difference over 14 years, significant difference. These are $20 million increments right here, by the way. 20 million. Back for 14 years. And since 1819, we see it going up. Even during Ian, you would expect it to drop because of those unexpected expenses. But no, it is steadily increased. 24, 25, I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know where it's going to be, but I will eat my hat if we come anywhere close to where this blue line is. I don't have a hat, by the way. Again, the point is, first, the trend going up in the past 6 years, and the healthy fund balance, consistently healthy fund balance year after year. And this is just a note from a special magistrate during an impasse hearing. We made this argument at an impasse hearing with a special magistrate, same argument. And while we said before, it is not recurring, and technically it's not, but the magistrate said, if you look at the significant amount over an extended period of time, yes, it can represent an additional recurring source of income that can be used with confidence if ever needed. So again, our proposal, we're looking to increase the district proposal by less than 1%. We're looking for $1.7 million to make this happen. To recap, first things first, right in salary. It's already budgeted. It is already there. It's budgeted $84 million more than was spent. We only need 2. That's not enough. Total appropriations, $214 million more than was spent last year. Again, we only need 2. And the fund balance averaged $113 million for the past 14 years, when it only needed 22 for that 3%. We just need 2%. It's been 15% financial condition ratio over the years, maintaining a fund balance 5 times more than it actually needs. And again, the district is offering 5%. We need 5.88%. $1.7 million. And again, I really hope we can settle tonight. That's all we're looking for. Thank you.
Okay, and there, we might have questions. Questions, clarifications from anyone? Marley?
We just want to ask them and not to move that yet. We're trying to think of this stuff.
Oh, okay.
Didn't expect questions from you, or at least.
Some things now we express them. Thank you.
Want a copy of this as well? Rob?
So I just want to talk about the things we actually do agree on, because it's easy to dwell on maybe something we don't. First of all, we started bargaining on March 4th of this year. We made some quick agreements on dues deductions, on the duration of the contract, on a pilot regarding work schedule for employees in maintenance. And then we agreed that we would wait for Evergreen, and we did. And since then, in the last several sessions, we've agreed on a salary schedule, at least the way it should look and the way it'll operate. We agree on pay grade assignments. And so we have one small detail that we can't agree on. And I heard a number of the team members talk about a fair and equitable agreement. The district has an interest in the fair and equitable treatment of all of its employees. And as was mentioned by Mr. Tuttle, TALC received 5%. That is what we have the authority to bargain for SPALC. And with that, I'll turn it over to Dr. Desmore.
So just wanted to, understood, I think everything that was in the presentation and appreciated, I think some of the comments or maybe questions that it would, that rose from it. So I just want to point out a couple things in there just to know everybody here has an interest in making sure that we are investing as much as we can for our employees. There's a couple of things I think that were missing a little bit or maybe should be illuminated a little bit more related to the budget itself. That is not just a plan for the current year, but a plan for what may happen in many years after. So it's our job to plan for all financial contingencies, including how salary can be maintained moving forward. And there are many different scenarios that enter into that picture when you think about how a budget would be structured for any given year. So for example, I know we pointed out, or Mr. Tuttle pointed out, that the fund balance had gone up in the last couple of years, or that percentage had gone up in the last couple of years. Well, yes, it did, because there were other things at play, including the fact that the district had received a very large infusion of funding source from ESSER funds or like COVID relief that everybody might or might not be aware of. Many different positions, many different things that were added in the budget because of it. Millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars really over several years. Much of that which went towards compensation for employees. But in the long-term plan, then there has to be a plan in order to try to maintain at least some of those things when ESSER goes away. So those are the types of things that have to be planned for within a budget as we put it together. So just one thing to be aware of, and another thing that was not in there as well were the benefits themselves. So compensating, we're talking about compensation, benefits is a part of that. And benefits was another area which increased both in its cost and in its benefit over the past couple of years as well, which is also a part of compensation. In comparison, talking about the fund balance and saying, well, the district has 5 times more than it needs, and I'm gonna beg to differ a little bit with the word need. What does that need mean, right? There is a statutory requirement of 3%, as you said. If you fall below that 3%, then you come into state monitoring, right? The state's gonna come and say, what are you doing with your stuff? We need to monitor you. That's a statutory requirement, but that doesn't necessarily mean on a district with the operations that we have, with the size of scale and scope that we have, that would be what one would need. And if you look at the statewide average, then that kind of lends to that as well, because nobody or very little people around the state would be hovering at a 3%. If you hover at a 3%, then probably something else is going on there. So you saw that there were, we were comparable almost to what the state was, but there are other factors that we have at play that many other counties in the district don't have at play. For example, we are one of the few counties that grow and continue to grow every year. Every year, we take in, at least 1,000 more students, if not more, and many districts are on the other side of that. They are losing kids every single year. And so another mitigating factor that we in Lee County need to plan for that others don't need to plan for. And I only say all of that to say, when we talk about a complete and comprehensive financial plan, there's a lot of factors to it that need to be taken into account when you create that financial plan, knowing that in the bottom line of that is our interests are still the same. We want to ensure that we can compensate our employees as much as we can and know that in addition to that, we have the plan to sustain that plan, whatever that is, moving forward along with all the other complicating factors that a district has to deal with.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Questions, comments on what was said? Okay. All right, any new options? I know we were operating off of option 12 with that one, which was the last option from the 23rd. I think we were kind of looking at 10, 11, and 12 at that point. 9, 2, or just 10, 11, and 12. Yeah. 10, 11, 12, okay. So if there are no other new options, do we need a caucus? Does anybody need to say anything else? Amy?
I was just going to ask maybe for all of our benefits, maybe if we could review those options, please.
Certainly.
I don't remember the actual numbers. I mean, I think I know the options themselves, but I just thought it would be good for us to just review each of them to kind of refresh our memories.
No problem.
10, 11, 12, or all of them?
Maybe the most recent ones we had, maybe, if that's 10, 11, and 12, then yeah.
That was 10, 11, and 12. Okay. Okay, option 10 was using SPALC structure. The paychecks were, the percentages, sorry, I have to get in front of it, were decreased to fall within the current bargaining authority. And then it had the years in district. Right, including a 5% bonus for those outside the salary schedule that we had talked about. Option 11 was using SPALC's option with current percentages, but share it starting 11/16/24 with a proposed payout of 12/15/24 and no retro pay and a 5% bonus for those outside the salary schedule. And number 12, Amy, that's that one over there.
It was less than 1 year, 0%, 1 to 4 years, 3%, 5 to 9 years, 4.5%, 10 to 14, 6%, 15 to 19, 7%, 20 plus 8.5%. Total cost is 8.9 million, and this is with retro.
Amy?
Okay, right. Okay, so thank you for reviewing those. I just wanted to make sure we were, caught up or reminded about what we had on the table. I just wanted to just kind of speak to the interests of them. I think where we last left it in option 11, where the option was, all right, let's take what was the original SPALC proposal, and I'm talking with the percentages of increase at each of the years. 0, 3, for 3.5, 5, 6.5, 7.5, 9, if I'm reading that correctly from here. And those, I read those percentages out loud because I'm contrasting them to the percentages then in option 12, which were 3 as opposed to 3.5, 6 as opposed to 6.5, or 4.5 as opposed to 5. So each of them are reduced by 0.5%. And I guess in terms of reviewing the interest, I just want to review each of those with the interest to say, is it in option 12 where we're reducing the percentages of increase, and so which of course affects the hourly rate, which is what any employee will have and will have hang on to moving forward. I think it serves the interest that we had better to keep our higher percentages. Those percentages in option 11 are the percentages that are of the best and the greatest benefit to the employee, because it gives a person the highest hourly rate moving forward of all of the options that we have, including all the ones that we did before that we haven't even, that we didn't discuss, I believe. It gives a person the highest hourly rate moving forward, the highest benefit to the employee in totality. So I guess I'm just speaking to the interest, right? And I'm speaking to the interest in terms of the option, contrasting the options 11 and 12, and saying that I believe that that option 11 gives the employee the biggest benefit today, tomorrow, and a year from now, and 5 years from now, because that's what each person is building on from there.
Okay, thank you. It's not written up here, but does option 12 also include the 5% for those outside of the salary schedule? Or,
No, we
that's just,
never talked about 5% for those outside the salary schedule.
okay,
They would receive the same amount as their group of years.
okay,
Yeah,
Yeah, of course.
okay.
I just want to make
Just
sure
wanted to
Donna
make
did
that was
before you
clear
get
for
that
everybody.
path here. Now, getting back to what Amy just said, I totally agree with you. That is the best. That was our initial proposal. We wanted it. Mr. Doty did not really, he was a little surprised by the cost, the price tag on that. So again, while we're asking for flexibility from you, it was only right for us to show some flexibility as well. And in examining these different proposals, while you are right, number 11 is the best, but that of course includes retro. We just had a commitment to include retroactivity, I guess at a previous bargaining meeting, but I don't want to get into that. So we did want to show flexibility, and in showing that flexibility, if you remember what was shown up there, ultimately, because of the rounding, we still landed, on average, within our target of 9% for 20 and above. So we were able to reduce that to 8.5%, but because of the rounding in the new salary schedule, the average was around 10%. So we were able to maintain that. You are correct. If you want to come up with $3 million to pay for that, I totally agree. I don't see any way that we could back off on retroactivity when we just agreed on it. That's just not even an option, I don't think. But I don't speak for this team.
So can I speak to that?
Yes.
Nobody agreed on retroactivity. I came in here and told you that the superintendent was committed to paying it based on the $7.2 million that we had authority to bargain back in April. There was no thumbs up, there was no thumbs sideways, there was no agreement. It was a commitment to pay it based on the situation on the ground at the time, which also includes, if you look at the interest of the parties, to conclude bargaining before the end of last school year, like we did with TALC. So, I mean, the situation on the ground clearly has changed since then. So there was a commitment to pay retroactivity, and there still can be, based on the bargaining authority.
Marlies.
Okay, Miss Donna, I have a question.
Okay.
Because I think right now, everybody is up to date, right?
Right.
On all the options.
I would say so. Well, on these last few options,
Right.
we could go back to number 1.
Oh, no ma'am, oh ma'am, we don't have no interest in that.
Okay.
But everybody in the room is up to date on these options. And I'm gonna have to say something, about what Amy said, option 11. Sure, if the school board would like to pay us out option 11, you're absolutely correct. That is the best option for our people. Is that what y'all are saying y'all gonna do? Y'all gonna pay that option 11? Because I just want to be clear. With retro?
Option 11 did not include retro.
Okay. Okay, the percentages. We're talking about the percentages, right? And we're talking about the step in the pay scale. So we totally agree. And I said last bargaining session, we can take option 11, right? And put it with option 10, and then we would have an agreement. So I guess to keep us from going like, I think everybody, I'm gonna say it again, is up to date. So just so I understand, are you saying that the bargaining authority is 7.2, and that's it? I just wanna know.
We've been saying that since April, yes.
Okay, thank you. And Rob, to go back to talk about the retro pay, again, April 25th. You came in and you said, oh, well, we're gonna pay retro plus overtime. I asked you to repeat it. You repeated it. So if you were coming in, right, and agreeing to paying retro for our people, no one said we needed to vote on it. I mean, you said it, we accept it, you say we didn't vote on it, you wanna vote on it now?
I think that would be a moot point since we have retro in the options.
Yeah, because I'm just trying to make clear.
We can't go back to April and vote on something that was discussed in April.
Yeah, okay, Ms. Donna, thank you. I just want, people to fully understand. Maybe some new people that wasn't here before or, logged on or whatever, so they can fully understand. It was said, quote unquote, April 25th, because we know we will not be done with bargaining by July 1st. We will pay retro plus the overtime. So if I'm just trying to make sure.
Semantics, we will pay retro based on the bargaining authority we have.
Gotcha.
And I believe that was option 11, that was the 110, the one that was with retro. Option 10 did include retro. Option 11 and 12 do not. Well, 11 does not, 12 does. Arlise.
So I'm gonna ask this question again. And there was a question that Lois asked at the last bargaining session, and we could not get the same answer. So the question is, did the Lee County School District bargaining team, and however your protocol looked, go back to the school board members, have a special session and ask them to increase the bargaining authority?
Rob?
We did not have an executive session. After every bargaining session, the superintendent is briefed on the status of bargaining. He then chooses how to convey that information to the board members. But we did not have an executive session as specified in Florida statutes, if that's what you're asking me.
Thank you.
All right.
That's one quick thing. Thank you. Thank you. Do you have any intention, now that you know how close we are, do you have any intention to send a message, if your procedure is to go to the superintendent and superintendent go to the school, however word gets to the school board, would you, as a bargaining team who's been sitting here working with this team since April, do you have the desire to say to the superintendent, $1.7 million is all we need and we are done. It's a good deal for everybody. Do you have any intention of doing something along those lines?
Rob?
I just told you how our process works.
No.
I didn't say that.
Okay, but I asked you about your process. I'm not asking if you're going to the school board. If you go to the superintendent and that's your process, would you recommend to the superintendent? Do you have any, I guess, I'm confused.
I think, Jonathan, you have never been through a training for interest-based bargaining. This isn't how it works.
I think the question is, do you recommend something to the superintendent, or you just give him the details of what happened during the session?
If he asks for recommendations, we will do that. It depends on the situation.
Thank you. All right. Anything else? Caucus, time frame? 15? You guys gonna caucus? No. Okay. Bob, would you like to give the caucus report, please?
Sure, we had a long discussion, and I apologize for how long we were there, about some of the things that happened right before the caucus. So we feel as though you're owed a more specific response to some of your questions. First of all, the superintendent is well aware of the requests that you have all made. There has been no additional executive sessions scheduled by either the superintendent or called for by a board member. You also asked for what our intentions are. Our intentions are not to ask for additional bargaining authority. And I think we've made that clear. So, but I felt as though, and the team felt as though, maybe we weren't specific enough about where we're at. So, and the real basis for that is the fairness and equity to every employee in the district. This district has a history of providing the same percentage increase to all of its employee groups throughout almost the 20 years I've been here, and probably longer. So that is the real issue, fairness and equity.
Okay, all right. They did not caucus, but Arlene, do you have something to say?
Yes, ma'am. I just wanted to say a couple of things. Where we said the district is fair and equitable. When we started with this evergreen study, it was said to our team, and I think pretty much all the employees, and also the board members, that no one was gonna get raises until we got the evergreen study back. But we had a group of people to receive raises. Last year, again, I said this last bargaining session, we had one individual who got an 8% increase with the rest of us. And then months later, turned around, they gave him a raise of $48,500. So I'm sorry if we don't see things being fair and equitable to all employees.
All right, anything else?
I guess the Rose point where SPALC feels that we're not gonna get any further than this, so I believe we're gonna talk about impasse.
Rod, anything? No? All right, impasse has been declared, which means we will not have any more meetings unless the parties want to, but.
Well, I think the statutory process requires it to be done in writing, so I'm not sure necessarily that it's been officially declared. I heard the words.
I'll send it when I get home.
Yeah, okay, all right. I just want to make sure that.
But we don't need to schedule any more meetings at all.
I was actually, before Lois picked up the bike, gonna ask to schedule a meeting, maybe not as soon as we did this one, but several weeks out, but there doesn't appear to be an interest from that side, so.
All right, thank you everybody for attending this evening.
Okay.